How's everyone feeling tonight? It's shadow hour. I'd like to welcome everyone here in our Quran in Decatur, Georgia, to our updates information class. I'd like to welcome everyone on the listening audience online. Thank you for coming out and tuning in. My name is Aᴜᴅ, student teacher of our master teacher, Partner Bab Yanun, our president of our United Nuapi Nation, His Excellency Dr. Malachi Kobina Zadok, who has been kidnapped and illegally incarcerated in the belly of the beast. As always, we'd like to first start off by stating the innocence of our master teacher and beloved father, and to continue to fight to free him, and continue to fight to reclaim our stolen land. As always, that's our goal, and we will continue to do that. We will always first state that, our mission. All right? As always, the master has been blessed us with affirmations, so we can learn and continue on this journey. So I'll read again the updates, first of all the lessons, then the updates. If you have any rereads or questions, I'll do my best as a student teacher to answer anything you might have, okay? A few weeks back, my good brother Satoki had started a lesson and completed half of it, so we'll go ahead and complete the other half tonight. It says, so by Kᴜᴜ Abel, the jealous one, was their seed passed on. And to further enhance the succession from Cain, he took other than just Abel's twin sister. He was Gᴜᴜ, transformed into an albino to look like the fallen angels of the land of Nod. The land of the fallen angels, the children of the light, the bright ones, shiny ones. And because of their Tağir transformation, Cain feared these killers because of their very taba'a, nature. They would see him and kill him because he did not look like them. So he was Gᴜᴜ, transformed to white light, the bright one, an albino, looking as the Mūdata'u extraterrestrials of the Najam star system that lived in Nod, the vagabonds and fugitives from heaven who were cast out. In order for Cain not to be killed, he received their mark, the mark of the beast. In Genesis 4:15 it says, and the Lord said unto him, therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. The mark of the beast in Revelations was a cross, a swastika, as a symbol of the Kama'at, or Pleiades star cluster. And this swastika was also, you'll see as the Pleiades star cluster, 6.6 star system. It was also a hexagram, or where the Germanics or the Celtics get their cross, which was again the swastika. The atom and the atomic bomb, a nuclear bomb created by a German of the Thule Society. He was named Julius Robert Oppenheimer and was often referred to as the father of the atomic bombs. The first atomic bomb was named after Cain, called Little Boy, dropped on Mongolians of Japan, August 6, 1945 AD. The carnage was a satanic ritual to their demand bloodlusting overlords of human sacrifices, which is their symbol of the true cross of their religions, a star. The mark and oath in the Theosophical Society are working with the beings from Aldebaran star system, and Hitler, who was offered millions in Germany by the Aldebarans, flesh eaters. So Cain was made to look like them. You know this because Adam was made to look like them in Genesis 3:22. When this Lord God said, behold, which means look at the man, Adam, and has become or transformed as one of us. They could see the transformation as he came. Also with Cain, they would look at him, and because he was bright white and albino, did not kill him. So to get this Lord angry, he would turn you white as snow, like lepers, as he did in Exodus 4:6 to Moses, and who was changed into an Elohim, Exodus 7:1, a God. So this Lord, Gᴜᴜ, transformed his Yadad hand, white as snow, as a sign of his anger. Also the same thing happened to his sister in Numbers 12:9. The anger of the Lord was kindled. He glowed. What did his glowing Lord, Yahweh, Jah, do? He transformed Miriam, Moses' sister, was transformed because of the Lord's anger and became leprous, white as snow. In Numbers 12:9, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against him, and he departed. Numbers 12:10, and the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. This Lord, Yahweh, Jah, glowed bright, as you read in Ezekiel 28:17. Your bad heart is lifted up because of your beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. And verse 17 goes on to say, your fairness, brightness, you have corrupted your wisdom by reason of your brightness. I will cast you to the earth. I will lay you in front of rulers. That was the curse. The mark of the beast being transferred from kamim, black, to pale, fair, bright, white, the curse of their God's anger on them. This is or was no spook. Tayyat ghost. It was a physical man, as it says in the same chapter of Ezekiel 28:9. The bloodline of Cain passed on to Canaan, Sidon or Zidon. Verse 20, and the curse of leprosy. Verse 20, the curse of Leviticus, and 14:32, or all of Leviticus chapter 13. This is the law of him in whom the plague of leprosy, whose hand is not able to get that which pertaineth to his cleansing. Yet they mixed their Yᴏʀd, wicked blood, with others, world over, to give them the mark of the beast. So Cain took a wife from Nod, being he looked like them, and had a son who ruled over them, as it said in Genesis 4:7. If you, Cain, do good, will you not be accepted? That is, offer flesh and demand blood, as read in Genesis 4:4, that Abel did as offering to these flesh-eating overlords. And if you does not do well or good, sin lieth at the gateway, door opening, and you shall or will rule over him. So Cain took a cherubim wife, who had a son in Genesis 4:17, and named him Enoch, and built a city after the name of his son Enoch. So he did in fact rule over them. He ruled in his own city of sin, Dᴏɪ, evil and wickedness. The new city of Nod is America, called the West, in Matthew 24:27-28. The new Babel, called in Revelation 11:1-8, the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom in Egypt. Sodom in Egypt is also where our Lord was crucified. Now read on to the end of Revelation chapter 11:1-19. So they are still doing the work of their overlords, offering flesh and blood to them, and Bʀᴜ souls of those who receive his mark, in Revelation 13:1-18, as Lucifer. When in that year, 666, they raised the devil's son. Who was this Janaan, human devil? In Isaiah 14:16. Is this man a mortal man? How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cast down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? In 2 Thessalonians 2:3 is that a man of sin. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So the Celtics work with the Mᴇᴜ, evil ones, devils, demons, Leviathans, to rule this one worldism, new world order, brotherhood of Satan, Luciferians. Wiccanism, hid as monotheism, the world over, as they offer jasad flesh and demand blood, and Bʀᴜ souls. They must rule your akal mind, body, and then take their ba'ah, soul. It's about trusting them in any way about anything. They are the father of lies. They cannot tell the truth. They only have 180 degrees of will. They are one-sided, as Genesis 6:5 says. They are wicked. Every image in their azal minds is only Dᴏɪ, evil, continually. Their own God, Enlil, tried to drown all of them in Genesis 6:6-7. Yet his brother Enki helped save some of them because of their genes. As you read in Genesis 6:9, or 6 akak ether to 9 akak ether. And it repented the Lord that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repented me that I have made them. The power to overcome them is 9 sabbath, reason. Use of 9 minds. When you find people who have lost their ability to sabbath, reason, it is because of what Zion, religion or opinions, and patriotism does to the mind. They live by unconfirmed beliefs, or devoted to a cause they don't get to understand, like war and politics. To be under a Zion, religion or opinion, is to be void of sabbath, reason. To be under a government is to be void of sabbath, reason. Loss of choices or will. When you come upon a people or person who has offered themselves over to others, and their ability to sabbath, reason, soundly, you're looking at a zombie, the walking dead. a person or people in degradation compared to the highest standards of tabi'ah, nature, 9 reasoning, which is called wunuwa. For those of 9 sabab reason, there are 9 senses, and we have more than just 5. The 5 senses are seeing, feeling, tasting, hearing, and smelling, which all 5 are only linked to thinking and or instinct. What divides the animal world from the Mᴇᴛ humanoid world is capability to sabab, reason. The 5 senses, instinct, all animals or beasts have instinct. The 6th sense is choice. Haman, human animals, have the 5 plus thinking. 7 senses, discipline. Haman, human animals who devote themselves like Buddhists, Hindus, Yogas, Islamic Sufis. 8 senses is conscious. Haman, humans with the ability to perceive. 9 senses is deities. Mᴇᴛ, beings with 4 higher senses. The highest form of sabab, reason, is sabab, 9 reason. 5 plus the 6 clairvoyance, clear, seeing things before they actually happen. 7 intuition, feel things before they actually are touched. Precognitions, knowing things before they actually happen. And 9, the transfigure, able to jalu, transfigure or shapeshift at will, which leads to Gᴇᴛ, divine reasoning and thinking. Caucasoids and all animals can exercise the first 6 senses, yet only other Sᴏᴜᴜ races are capable of experiencing the 7th, 8th, and 9th senses. All have the capabilities to do heavy thinking. Yet Tasu Sabab, 9 reasoning, is above the level of all but Negroids. Thinking is a straight line mental process of the chemicals of brain matter, whereas reasoning is a circle mental process of the chemicals of brain matter. The straight line mental process is mental exercise based on a higher percentage of negative brain matter than positive. In the Shannon circle mental process is mental exercise based on a higher percentage of positive brain than negative. Reasoning employs the mental ability to determine what is hakak, fact, from fiction, what is sadat, truth from lies, and right from wrong. 360 degrees of willpower, which is self-choice by the natural rules of your very own tabi'ah, nature. Thinking is the exercise of brain matter in mental depth. Sabab, reasoning, is the exercise of brain matter in mental life. When more negative brain matter is active than positive brain matter, the mind is mentally dead. Sabab, reasoning, is thinking above the animal, beast, savage, heathen levels. Tasu Sabab, non-reasoning, is the highest form of mental process. Tasu Sabab, non-reasoning, is Aᴜᴅ, the mind of the original creators, the true star children, the sons. Tasu Sabab, non-reason, is the elevator of the Negroid mind. 9, Ta'alam, knowledge, or right Ta'alam, knowledge, of Patarak, the way. Wupa, Madat, the words, which produce 9 minds. The transformer of your Gᴇᴛ, divine mind. Your Gᴇᴛ, divine mind, is linked to your royal crown, or inner skull nerves, to the nervous system, which is the network and tentacles of the brain. When a Negroid has lost their ability to reason soundly, by way of the evolutionary forces, servitude is inevitable to Levianite or Lawi Tananu, Levianite seed. Now I'll get into the update, which we got from our sisters who were able to visit the master teacher in his incarceration. So you know sometimes the updates jump around a little bit, so bear with us. This is Hatep Yasar. 1. Prophecy of Panabab Yanun says African bees will be in Colorado and they will not have a reason as to why. 2. We need to prepare for survival and again be careful because of the diseases that have been released. There is the MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, that has reached America that they say originated with a one-hump camel.
Breaking headline this evening, a new case of MERS in this country, the 3rd to test positive in the U.S. And tonight, some big questions about how this 3rd patient got it. Were they simply in the same room as another patient? Here's ABC's Rena Nina.
The search is on tonight. The Centers for Disease Control looking for anyone who may have had contact with an Illinois man now believed to be the first MERS infection transmitted in the U.S. This new patient came in contact twice with the first U.S. patient, a healthcare worker who traveled to Saudi Arabia, then flew back to the U.S. through Chicago. The two business associates came in contact twice in Illinois and shook hands. But what many find so surprising with this latest case, the Illinois patient showed none of the symptoms. Another case of MERS, or Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, was reported just last week in a 44-year-old Saudi Arabian medical worker visiting Florida. He flew from Jeddah to London, London to Boston, Boston to Atlanta, Atlanta to Orlando. 500 travelers on his U.S. flight alone. MERS began in the Middle East 2 years ago. So far, 100 have died overseas, and the virus shows no signs of letting up. Rena 9 and ABC News, New York.
Rena, thank you. I want to bring in ABC's chief health and medical editor, Dr. Richard Besser, has been tracking this. You've worked for years with the CDC. First, the transmission here, simply in a meeting together?
That's right. 40 minutes in a meeting and a handshake. I'd focus on the handshake because we know a lot of viruses spread that way.
And it's possible this patient could have been walking around having no idea they had it.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is it tells us not everyone gets severe infection, but the big question is, could he have spread it to other people?
But most alarming to you, simply in the same room together.
That's right.
All right, Rich, thanks. I know you'll continue to track this.
There is another disease coming out of the Caribbean, and Ebola has resurrected. And even others that were cured, like polio, have resurfaced. So family, be warned. Again, it will be 3 times as hot this summer. The Ankh tree is a symbol for life after life, not life after death. There are pure spirits. When a person has not committed any malice or rape, nothing evil, then they have no blemishes. They are a pure soul. Now, a soul that is dirty, you must apologize. Once you pass, you must be orientated. Your cells replicate 6 cycles of 54 and can expand or be prolonged depending on how you live your life. Once you are out of your body physically, the physical attributes go as well. All those things are physical. All those things that are physical are that and do not exist in that realm. Now, a ghost that torments people refuse to go to orientation, where they are told what they can and cannot do, and they transform into a specter. 5. Question. Why do people die violently instead of all passing peacefully? Answer. People who die violently is from qadar, fate, also called karma, and to the 4th generation. During your orientation, as you pass to the other side, there you will be reassigned to another level and not return. You can become an emissary. Then there are those who are too afraid to continue on and get trapped somewhere in between. Their relatives can only come and descend to a certain level. So the spirit person has no choice except to reincarnate. Sometimes during special cases, they incarnate into a recent newborn child or a family that is based on a mother's grief in the case of a child that passes so young. 1. The world is in a bad state. More teenagers shooting and killing each other. China is working with Russia for gas. China made a big deal with Nigeria for this resource. Question. What is the main point in the book of Genesis? Answer. The fall of man. Man, Adam, was told about 2 trees, which are the tree of life and the tree of good and evil. Man was not originally born with will or choice. The tree of good and evil ties into the double helix. The double helix pertains to the human genome and cracking the code of the Adamites. Now, man was not supposed to live a certain amount of years. In fact, after 1920, man began to live longer. Prior to that, man lived into the 30s and 40s. Now man lives well into their 80s. In the Bible, Genesis, it speaks about the spirit. God's spirit will not always strive with man. In the Hebrew, the word for strive is dini, in Hebrew meaning judge. Judging man, yet it was not until 120 years of age. Now when the extraterrestrials, or angels, the sons of God, came to earth and had these children, they had to be able to mix in or be compatible genetically to produce an offspring. Human beings have 46 chromosomes, and an ape has 48 chromosomes. Now, at 47 chromosomes, a defect called Down syndrome results. This is one of the missing links. There are 23 and 23, or 2 pairs of 23 equaling 46. That means when the God's extraterrestrials came down, there was a pre-existing being that went from Homo genus to Homo erectus to Homo sapien. Yet you also had Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal man. Cro-Magnon was carnivorous, and Neanderthal were vegetarians. There are people today who have this blood type today. It has been recently discovered that the pre-existing 23 came from someone else, or or that are unexplained in the year 2000 AD, and the other 23 came from reproduction. When the Adamites cracked the code of the human genome, they will live again until 120. Yet the commandment in the garden was not to take from the tree of life. They used the knowledge of will, 180 degrees of physical, and 180 degrees of spiritual, and before they partook of the tree of life, they were cast out. This commandment still stands, and now they have cracked the human genome of Adamites, and are prolonging life, growing and replacing body parts, and will partake of the tree of the human genome, tapping into the double helix of your DNA. Now the gods or extraterrestrials are stepping in again, and blocking man from taking from the tree of life, your DNA, and saying you are not listening. And now nature is causing destruction. They are having a problem with beef again. But the Nᴏᴛᴇs don't have to worry about mad cow disease, because Nᴏᴛᴇs don't what? Eat beef. Nᴏᴛᴇs don't have to worry about Lyme disease, because Nᴏᴛᴇs don't keep pets. Lyme disease is transferred from a tick, a deer tick. We know ticks and fleas love animals. For those people who are selling marijuana in certain states, even those in which states it is legal, they have been raided. They were raided because they had other substances that were illegal, although the marijuana was legal. It is just a way to find the connections, and they will eventually be shut down. Yet they know what direction to look, so it is not wise to indulge in that arena, as it draws attention to yourself as a target. Hatep Washuk, travel safe yourself. And some lessons which you can see a lot of things the master's been tied in, as far as the Cain and Abel story, Genesis story, the 200 fallen angels. If you recall, anyone's been reading for a while about how the master said the 200 fallen angels originally looked. If you go back to the old doctrine, he said they look like your average punk rocker today. And you remember that, how the hair and the Caucasian 200 fallen angels who came down the land of Nod. So you can see how the master was tying it in, and how these beings were transformed to look like that. You follow, and that's what that race was about. The creation of Genesis, how it dealt with the creation of one breed of Caucasians, and namely also the extraterrestrial intervention or interreaction to create or upgrade this humanoid. All right? And if you're doing research with the news recently, they're still asking for more research, because they're saying that they definitely know that extraterrestrials are out there. So they're wanting more money for research, and they're planning on trying to get up out of here because they see how the planet is falling apart before their eyes. So many of the prophecies which the master teacher has been explaining, you go back to the book of Leviathan, the year 2000, what to expect, all these different things which are happening throughout the globe right now, we see it coming forth and coming to play. So it's very important, as our master teacher, Padre Bab is explaining, for us to totally give the Caucasian back in society and everything with it. His thinking process, his, as we explained in the update, the one-line thinking, his one-direction thinking, and you can see how from birth, we are all trained to think in a one-way pattern. You follow, we were always given choices to make, which they gave us, from a toddler to a middle school, college, on forth. Everything is already laid out for us. You don't ever think in it, you don't ever really reason. You follow? I'll give you an example of not reasoning, and how we've all been taught to think straight into one direction. I remember as children, or as we grow up, one question adults are always asking is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? And we always have different choices to make on what we want to be when we grow up. And you always come up with certain questions. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a football player. I want to be a doctor, so on and so forth. And they're all common answers that we will eventually undertake in our endeavors. All right? So you ever had anybody say, I want to be the one who, I want to start my own hospital? No one ever says, I want to start my own hospital. Everybody wants to be a doctor. I want to be the one that cures AIDS. We don't think like that. When we grow up as a ball player, no one ever says, well, what do you want to be when you get out of college? I want to go to the NBA, and I want to own my own team. Things like that. We don't think like that because we aren't taught that. We're always taught in a linear fashion. You follow what I'm saying? We're always taught in that direction. Where's the individual that says, I want to correct the English language? Why not, I want to start my own college? These different things, because we're not taught to think that. We're taught to think in one direction. Most people always taught, what do you do when you grow up? Get a job so you can look towards retirement. And in retirement, you're supposed to enjoy life. Why can't you retire at 21?
Yeah.
You follow what I'm saying? These are just different small little things which we are showing how we are taught is to think in a one-directional sense of mind. You follow? So we have to break from that mold which they have taught us. And it was classes before when the master explained how that becomes ingrained in our mind, because we all know our thinking or thought process starts as an electrical impulse, correct? And that electrical impulse sends thought waves to the brain, or thought waves from the brain to the body. And these electrical impulses, which originate in the brain, are actual physical things, from the mental reservoir to a physical impulse, which is electricity, which goes from electrical to the brain, passing through to the nerves, so on and so forth, by the body. Well, these electrical impulses which are very powerful, start to cause grooves within the brain. All right? And as these grooves are manifested all throughout life, they become thicker and harder. All right? So as we grow older, it's constantly hard to break from the patterns we've been instructed, because it's these patterns in the brain which the neurons or the electrical impulses have been trained to pass through. They cannot break from these physical patterns. And just like if you have a river running and the water is constantly flowing from that river, and until you create a deviation from the river, that water is going to go in one path. You follow what I'm saying? The same thing with these electrical impulses that are within the brain. They are going through these specific paths, and it's very hard to break those impulses to create a different path. You follow what I'm saying? And just like if you remember from the mind book, the master is explaining, if you were to say you work in a certain building, and every day you have to pass in front of a bakery shop. And one day you get paid on a Friday, and you say, you see a delicious chocolate cake in that window, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna go buy that cake today. I just got paid, I'm gonna go buy the cake. You get home, taste the cake, the best cake you ever tasted. The next Friday, you're gonna think about that cake again. Because you've created a new scenario or a new path for those brain waves to travel on. You follow? Now, if you do that long enough, each Friday get a cake, you've developed a new pathway where you develop a habit. And we all know how hard habits are to break. Once you start smoking, it's very hard to break from the smoking. Once you start drinking alcohol, it can be very hard from breaking. Once you start speeding when you're driving, it can be very hard to stop speeding and driving. Once you start thinking, as they groom us from children, in a Caucasian state of mind, then it becomes very hard to break from that train of thought, because it's actual patterns within the brain which have to be disrupted. And that's where non-mind reasoning, or Wunawap, comes into play, where we will analyze and look at the different aspects of our thinking which control our actions, and we will then be able to break those patterns. You follow what I'm saying? Because this body that we occupy, or seem to occupy, or this body that we command or tell things to do, is actually not us. We're actually viewing this body as we would a movie. And we're making decisions, willpower, based on our will to dictate this body or this movie. All right? Now, if I go back to explain that. We all know the science of seeing something, correct? We're all familiar how you actually see something, and how light hits an object, bounces off the object, reflects back to the brain, to the optic nerves, goes to the brain deciphers what it is based on its experiences, flips the image upside down and projects it, and you see it. Okay? So, the object you actually see, right side up, is actually not outside of you, it's inside your brain. And the brain, which the master explained is a holographic computer, sees, quote unquote, these images in a three-dimensional fashion. You understand that? So, seeing that that image is actually inside your head, you don't really see anything out here, it's a projection inside your head. Who is viewing the projection? Who is looking at that movie screen? Because it's inside of here. Now the master explained that we are multi-dimensional beings from the multiverses. So we as a multi-dimensional being is viewing what we appear to see in this physical realm. And being that the images that we see are mainly controlled by another being not of that dimension, and is being controlled to trap us into this dimension, where we think what we see is a reality. And if they can reflect or influence this so-called reality, where they are superior and they control everything, they can keep that multi-dimensional being, which we actually are, trapped in this one-dimensional reality, called the physical realm. You follow what I'm saying? And if that multi-dimensional being doesn't break free from the prison of this movie in which we are trapped in, then when this movie fades away, that being will fade away as well. So it's very important, as the Master explained, to see things for what they really are and start to reason again, not just think. Reason. Then we will look at this so-called reality for what it really is, and we'll start to think and reason everything out. Our actions, our everyday apparent movements. You follow what I'm saying? And once we start reasoning, we'll look at most of the things we do on a day-to-day basis and ask yourself, why? Why am I doing it? Really, if you really look at most of the things we do, you say, stop and you say, why am I doing this? I catch myself many times, as many times I hear about the tones, and suddenly I'll be quick to throw in a Biggie Smalls album or something, and be like, stop myself later and listen to it and be like, why am I doing this? It's those grooves again, created by his environment, which are still there, which the pattern wants to go back. I think I like that music. It's like when you become a vegetarian, and then you make that mistake to eat that one piece of chicken, and then something sets it off, and you be like, man, and you have to stop and say, why? Why am I doing this? And you start to reason things out once again, which is what our master teacher is trying to get us back to. Pāṇi Bāvyā Nūn, it said we have to become nine-mind thinkers again, to reason, and become, as he would say, a multi-track thinker. A multi-track thinker is someone who is constantly doing multitask, multiple things at the same time. You follow me? And that's how you make more out of your 24 hours in a day than what they actually try to allow you to have. You follow what I'm saying? You start making more out of your time. So these are the tidbits which we have to get back to, becoming multi-track thinkers, circular thinkers, and start viewing this movie for what it really is, and in reality. The matrix, which is being controlled by beings that we call God. You follow? Any other questions? Something to think about. Who is watching the movie? And if you don't have any other questions or rereads, we'd like to thank everyone again for coming out tonight and supporting. Please come out throughout the week. Thursday night, the elders will be teaching the dance this week, the pole ceremony. So please come out and be a part of that. And you'll be mesmerized when you come out and experience it, so definitely do that. Definitely check on our elders who are sick and shut in, even those who aren't sick and shut in. Check on one another. And remember to fight the free our master teachers for the belly of the beast. All right? So everyone have a safe travel home. Bye.